Hello and welcome in. Come on in, everybody. It's Thursday, November 3rd, a little after 11 Central. Today, I want to cover the latest Goldman Sachs report on the humanoid robot market and what that means for Tesla specifically and the Tesla bot. There's some very fascinating points in that presentation that I want to go through and to try and figure out, okay, what does this mean from a number of bots out there that all of us can leverage and what it means to Tesla specifically from a business valuation perspective. So without further ado, let's do some production. These slides are crazy. Anyway, let's dig right in. Stanley Yuan on Twitter. Shout out to Stanley. Goldman Sachs just dropped a 70-page research on humanoid robots and predicts the humanoid market will be as big as the EV industry today by 2035, growing 94% a year to $154 billion by 2035. Real-world AI leaders such as Tesla and motion components manufacturers are set to lead the growth. Thank you, Stanley, for sharing this with us. You can see it's dated. Actually, yesterday morning it came out, and I want to read that first page, which is a summarization from Goldman Sachs, and then we'll highlight a slide and take it from there. The investment case for humanoid robots. The launch of Tesla's humanoid robot prototype, the Optimus, has again sparked debate about the financial opportunities of such innovation. The investment case for humanoid robots is sizable. We estimate that in 10 to 15 years, a market size of at least $6 billion is achievable to fill 4% of the U.S. manufacturing labor shortage gap by 2030 estimates and 2% of global elderly care demand by 2035 estimates. Should the hurdles of product design, use case, technology, affordability, and wide public acceptance be completely overcome, we envision a market of up to $154 billion by 2035 estimate in a blue sky scenario, close to that of the global EV market and 1/3 the global smartphone market as of 2021. So blue sky is another way of saying, a very, very optimist. I was going to say optimal, optimistic sort of projection into the future, which suggests labor shortage issues such as for manufacturing and elderly care, why can't I say that word today? It can be solved to a larger extent. With the supply chain likely evolving from robotics, automation, AI, self-driving, etc., we believe the best investment plays at this stage are motion components such as leader drive, HDS, Sanhua, Hewin, and THK. It is still unclear at this stage who will dominate the software aspect and capture the largest profit pool. Tesla investors will say, obviously, it's Tesla, but we'll make some assumptions as we go forward. There's another slide that was shared on that thread, which I highly recommend you check out. Again, Stanley Yuan on Twitter at Nonlinear Growth. Please make sure you go check it out. A lot of great information in there. But I wanted to highlight this slide specifically. So this describes the global EV shipments since 2010, which is the green line, the global smartphone shipments since 2003, which is the pink line. And then you have the blue sky scenario for the humanoid robot, which is the dotted line with the 94% that you can see there. Oh, actually, I'm blocking it. Let me remove myself. There you go. So that's 94% in the corner. And that is the blue sky scenario that we talked about, where they predict $154 billion by the year of 2035. So what I want to do with this slide is I actually want to take this and create and use those assumptions that were described on the letter and the graph and figure out what does this mean for Tesla specifically, where is the starting point, and then how is it going to potentially develop through the years up through 2035, how many bots that means from Tesla, what the revenue could be, what the profit could be, with making some sort of safe assumptions, but it will start to paint a picture of how Goldman Sachs views this market. Which I'm very excited to share with you. Again, that $154 billion is this upper right window here on the graph. And that 94% ends at $154 billion, essentially. Think of it that way, which is, again, shared on this letter. If I highlight this area right here, $154 billion by 2035. All right. So it's basically the same thing. I don't want you guys getting confused on that. Okay. So how do we calculate these numbers? How do we get to a point where we can understand how this market is going to influence Tesla? For those that don't know, compound annual growth rate, also known as CAGR, is basically a formula that you can use to figure out if you have a certain percentage increase year over year, what is your end result? And this is what the formula looks like for those that are interested. Compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, equals V final, which is your final amount, which in this case is 154 billion in 2035. The beginning, which we used to calculate to figure out what Goldman Sachs thinks the starting point is going to be at 2025, which is where, if I go back to the line, this is exactly where it starts. This is where they're expecting the humanoid robot to start, which is in 2025. And then 1 divided by t, it's basically 1 divided by how many years are between 2025 and 2035, which is 10 minus 1. So if we just plug in the numbers, and I'll just do a quick math exercise. So for those that are interested in using this for, say, a different method or something else, they can very much use this, and you'll have sort of a crash course on how to compute this. The beginning is what we're trying to solve for, which is that 2025 number. The final number is 154 billion by 2035. The time that it takes from 2025 to 2035 is going to be 10 years. And we know our ending amount, which is compounded annual growth rate, which is 94%, or 0.94 if you describe it as a number, as a decimal. So if we plug this into the formula, it's 0.94 equals 154, which is your ending result, divided by our beginning result, which is what we're trying to solve for, to the power of 1 divided by the 10 years minus 1. For math nerds, here's what the flow of the formula looks like. We move the 1 to the left, so you plus 1, 1.94 equals the remaining. And then what we do here is we power by 10 to cancel out this 1 over 10. It's basically the 10th root of this number. We take it to the power of 10, but we have to do it on both sides. If you remember your algebra from back in middle school and high school, then it's 1.94 to the power of 10 equals a remainder. Then we need to bring 154 on its own and bring VB, the beginning number, at a place where we can compute for it. So what I did here, I just basically multiply both sides by VB to get it to this side, and then I divided the remainder. I'm dividing 154 by the remainder. So the beginning value is 154 divided by 1.94 to the power of 10, which, thank you for bearing with me through that little math lesson. The ending result here is $203 million, $304 million roughly. Goldman Sachs is expecting the humanoid robot market to be by 2025, 203 million. And so the thought process here is, if you take the 203 million and you multiply it by 94% through 2035 for 10 years, you end up with the number of 154 billion. So what does this mean for Tesla specifically? So I took that $204 million number, which we computed just now, and I stuck that in the 2025 year for the humanoid market. And then I essentially said, from every year thereforth, we're going to grow by 94%. So you're going to go from 200 million. It's 0.2 because we're in billions. So imagine there's a 0.4 over here. So 0.204 billion, which is equivalent to 204 million. You grow by 94%, 94%, 94%, and then all the way down to 154 billion. So you can see the humanoid robot market increases quite a bit and quite quickly based on their model. To figure out what the Tesla bot implication is from Goldman Sachs sort of report, I assume some sort of market share for Tesla. And this is where it gets really interesting, where you can kind of walk through your own sort of assumptions and how you're thinking about this. And this is why I'm kind of sharing all the detail behind the model. I'm assuming Tesla starts off at 100% market share, because I don't see anybody else. Boston Dynamics could be, so some people say, hey, they're actually building a humanoid robot, but is it actually useful in the use cases like elderly care and labor? It doesn't seem like it. So I assume 100%. And then I assume for the next 10 years, since 2025, other players will come in and they'll, come in and change. I don't know if they'll implement humanoid robots that could compete with Tesla. And I'm doing this to be somewhat conservative. And that 50% number is somewhat close to what Tesla's market share is in the EV market, especially in developed countries. So places like the US specifically, and other parts of the world as well. They have a huge market share when it comes to their segments. So I'm assuming 50% by 2035. If we just extrapolate this out to what does this mean from a revenue perspective per year, if we assume that market share is equivalent, then you basically take that market share, you times it by, that market, you times it by the market share, and then you end up with the revenue that would be allotted essentially to Tesla. So if we go to 2035 with a $154 billion market by that year, if we say assume 50% of that is swallowed up by Tesla, then Tesla would have about $77 billion, essentially equivalent in revenue that year for the Tesla bot. If we assume that Tesla bot, each of them costs $20,000 to the end consumer, then that's roughly 3.85 million bots in 2035. And if they sell it at a margin of 25%, they end up with a profit of about $19 billion. If we assume that goes straight to the bottom line, let's just, for this exercise, assume there's no tax implications for whatever reason. Essentially the market cap implication from Tesla bot at 3.85 million units sold in 2035, if they have a 50% market share at 25% margin, is about $385 billion to the market cap. So that's the summary here. And that's how I kind of want you guys to think about this. They're starting with about 204 million market share in 2025. They're going to extrapolate it out 10 years to 2035. And then if we take those 3.85 million robots at 50% market share, 25% margin, about $400 billion market cap at a 20 PE. If I compare this to the model that I put together not too long ago, about a month ago, I put down a bot model, really when AI Day 2 came out. And I try to walk through my own things, like, okay, where do I think this is going to end up? What's interesting is by 2035, I do have it quite a bit higher. Goldman Sachs has it at about 3.85 million if we assume that 50% market share. I have it at about almost 5 million sold that year, which really could just be a reflection of a higher uptick, right? If there is 3.85 million sold at 50% market share, and I'm saying 5 million, then this is probably closer to 65%. And so what this helps me do, where this exercise is extremely helpful for me, is that it says, okay, the numbers that came up here could actually pan out. It could pan out. If you have a company like Goldman Sachs who does a lot of research, I'm not going to say they're going to be, too optimistic or too pessimistic, and they're coming out and saying essentially they're figuring about 4 million bots by 2035 if Tesla has a 50% market share. Then 5 million bots that year could very much work out, especially if they think the market's 154. One thing to keep in mind with Goldman Sachs, though, is that they're usually the way they tackle these sort of long-term technologies and things that are groundbreaking, I found that they're very conservative in nature, but that's probably because they don't want to make something sound way better than it is. They're trying their best to come up with a good sort of foundation to reason from. Interestingly, what's very interesting though is that 154 billion is their blue sky scenario. This is where we think it's going to be the most optimistic way of looking at the Tesla bot and where it's going to end up, which I find fascinating because if I compare it to my numbers, boy is mine bigger than their best case. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating to look at, and I just wanted to put this video out there to sort of get a little bit more data for folks to see how this bot market could pan out here in the next 10 years. The fact that we have such a quote unquote prestigious, company in Goldman Sachs coming out with a report here, which I'll highlight again, already talking about human or robots is very, very exciting. I feel like the future it's almost here. And they themselves, again, think that by 2025, we're going to have some bots in the market. So just wanted to get it out there. Let me know what you think. Let me know if my approach makes sense. Let me know what I can do better, how I can present these things. I'm getting feedback that these sort of analytical style videos people really enjoy, so I'm going to try to do a lot more of them. But yeah, let me know what you think. Drop them in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, throw me a like, subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel in any way, I have links in the description for Patreon and the merch store if you'd like to purchase some merch. And then you can also join our community by hitting join right below this video, probably down here somewhere. So thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one tomorrow on Friday. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.